Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Retired Psychiatrist channel. Today, we're taking a look at the psychology of another anime, this time Den-noh Coil, and what it has to teach us about loss and mourning. This anime was an original creation, meaning it wasn't based on a different source, like a light novel or a manga. And it was created by Mitsuo Iso, who rose to prominence as an animator, especially the Neon Genesis Evangelion series and the movies. It was a production of Madhouse Studio, consisted of 26 episodes, and it was released in 2007. And this is one of those cases where you cannot really judge the anime by its look. Especially, you take a look at that first episode, and it looks very childish, very cute, almost as if it was aimed only at children. But in reality, this is a very complex and deep anime that I think only a more mature audience would fully appreciate. And some of its main themes are the effects of technology on the human mind and the interactions between people, the issues of mourning and loss that we're going to be taking a look at, and also human nature itself. In fact, there's an episode here, episode 12, that it's pretty much a condensation of the history of mankind in 23 minutes. I honestly feel it's probably one of the best episodes in the history of anime or television entertainment for that matter. So we're going to simplify some of the main aspects that are foundational for the series and the story. Um, in this universe, in this world, people and mainly children use cyber glasses. And these are glasses that generate an augmented reality that superimposes virtual reality on the person's physical surroundings. So, kind of like Pokemon Go, for those of you who are familiar with that game, except that instead of seeing the virtual reality, the Pokemon in that case on your phone, you would see it on your glasses. So it would be a more seamless integration or of virtual reality on your physical surroundings. And the series introduces the concept of imago, and imago or imago, it comes from psychoanalysis. Originally was a concept introduced by Carl Jung as the internal unconscious representation of an important figure of the person's mind that later influences how we relate to other people in the future. And eventually that concept evolved to be what we now know, or was eventually known as complex, in the psychoanalytical sense, like the patient has a mother complex or a father complex, and so forth. In the series, imago is used to refer to as a function that allows the cyber glasses to interface directly with the user's thoughts and can also draw a human mind into cyberspace. And they go, again, all this is very simplified. They go over detail about how this is supposed to happen. Not that it's believable or anything, but they do offer a mechanism for it. So this imago function allows the mind to interface directly with the cyber glasses. Um, you think, and what you think then appears or influences the functions of the cyber glasses, or appears superimposed in your physical surroundings. But also, this imago can draw your mind, kind of download your mind from the physical brain to cyberspace. So you can be in cyberspace interacting independently independently of your physical body. And the title of the series, Den-noh Coil, is the effect of separating the physical body and the cyber body. So, what the imago does, which is to draw the human mind into cyberspace, that effect is referred to as Den-noh Coil. Now, we also see references to what's called old space. In at different times, it may be referred to as old space, old domain, or obsolete space. And this is the cyberspace where the minds of people using Imago were drawn to. So the cyberspace where your mind is downloaded to through Imago, or via the phenomena of Den-noh Coil, that's old space, old domain or obsolete space. And illegals are virtual organisms that live in these damaged spaces of virtual reality that are all domain or all obsolete space. So the virtual organisms living in old space are illegals. Michiko is a particular illegal that is capable of trapping the mind of users in old space. So, to summarize, cyber glasses generate an augmented reality. It superimposes virtual reality on your physical surroundings. Den-noh Coil is separating your physical body and the cyber body. This is done by the function of imago. And the cyberspace where your mind is downloaded to or drawn to is called old space, old domain, or obsolete space. In that space, there are virtual organisms referred to as illegals, and Michiko is a particular illegal that can trap the mind of the children or the mind of the users in that old space. The series has two main characters, Isako and Yasako. We're going to concentrate on Isako today because she's the main character dealing with issues of loss and mourning and grief. And her story is pretty traumatic, pretty sad. She's an 11-year-old girl, and her father died. And after her father died, her mother got sick. I don't think we're ever told what kind of sickness, not that I can remember or that I picked up, but it required an extended hospitalization. Therefore, Isako and her brother, called Nobuhiko, moved in with extended family. Once that happened, Isako and Nobuhiko are involved in a car accident, and as a result, her brother died, and she ended up in a coma. Isako wakes up from her coma. She learns that her brother is dead, and she falls into a coma again. So here's where a Dr. Okonogi comes into the picture. Knowing about Isako's traumatic history, wanting to help, he develops a treatment consisting of using imago to help Isako cope with the trauma of losing her brother. So basically, he's going to, using imago, he's going to download Isako's mind into into a newly created cyberspace. The cyberspace created for this experimental treatment is referred to as other side. So other side is a form of old space created specifically for the treatment of Isako. And following treatment, after Isako comes back to the real world from this old space, she thinks that her brother is in a coma, still alive, and that he's in a coma as a result of the car accident. She has unclear memories from the imago treatment, and she thinks that she was the cause of the car accident because of a wish that she made to Michiko. So when she comes back from the other side, following her experimental treatment, she is thinking that she caused the car accident, um, and that her brother is still alive and that he's in a coma. So this was a pretty problematic treatment. Dr. Okonogi created this other uh, space, specifically called 4423. And this was a cyberspace where Isako could be a child forever until she had the opportunity to heal. And here on this cyberspace, they would create anything that would fill the void in her heart, including her own brother. So when her mind is downloaded to this cyberspace called 4423, this cyberspace will provide her with a virtual reality, with a virtual experience that's designed to avoid her from feeling her loss, from dealing with the issue that her brother had died and her whole traumatic series of events. That put the character in a very difficult situation. She had to choose between a perfect fantasy, staying with her brother in other space forever, protected from all sorts of emotional pain, on the one hand, or an imperfect reality, accepting her loss and moving on with her life on the other. And we see this type of situation where a character has to choose between a perfect fantasy and an imperfect reality in anime throughout time. We've seen it in animes like Neon Genesis Evangelion and also Magnetic Rose, um, a short movie with a similar topic. So, in an effort to eliminate her pain, the treatment itself was keeping Isako from accepting her loss. So she was stuck in limbo, if you will, with a virtual brother filling in the void for the loss of her actual brother, um, but also unable to move forward with her own life, with her psychological development. And once Dr. Okonogi recognized the counter therapeutic nature of this treatment, he released Isako from the cyberspace at the cost of his own life. He stayed trapped in this 4423 space. Um, that was the price that he had to pay in an effort to release Isako from that space. So in this cyberspace, old space, other space, 4423, we see an illegal being called Michiko. And Michiko is the representation of a mourning that's complicated by guilt. In medicine, we often see people that are dealing with grief and mourning and loss. And one of the main things we have to try to identify and make sure is that the patient is not struggling with feelings of guilt, because guilt will complicate mourning and make a process that's natural and time limited into something pathological and ongoing. Literally can keep going forever for the rest of the life of the person. And Isako is feeling guilty on two different fronts. She's feeling guilty, like we saw, for the accident that caused, in reality, the death of her brother, and in her mind, her brother being in a coma. And she's also guilty about moving forward and feeling like she's leaving her brother behind. And this is because she is interacting with a virtual reality version of her brother, and leaving him leaving that virtual reality version of her brother and going back to the real world, to her feels like a betrayal, like she's leaving her brother behind. But also in real life, and we see this when people grieve, they feel guilty about moving forward, moving on with their lives, because they feel like they're betraying the person that passed. So this guilt is complicating Michiko's mourning. It's making her get stuck in the process of mourning, unable to move on with her life. And Michiko is the incarnation or representation of that guilt. And we see it in several of her of the things she says to Isako. For example, she tells her, "You try to abandon your feelings for your brother and selfishly grow up." She also says, "If this place is destroyed, your brother will die." And that basically what she's saying is, if you accept that your brother is dead and you go back to the real world and you move on with your life, this whole space will be destroyed and your brother will really, really die. You'll have to face his death both in the real world and in this virtual world. You'll lose him completely. She also tells Isako, if you stay here, you don't need anything, and there's no need for the pain and suffering that it takes to become an adult. Uh, like we see in the picture, she describes herself as the part of Isako that was born to eat away her pain and her sorrow. And the treatment, we see how the treatment that was supposed to help Isako move on from her loss and her grief was actually getting her stuck and keeping her from moving forward. A healthy mourning, on the other hand, is based on facing the loss, uh, accepting your loss, accepting your sadness. You don't want to be in denial or of what or whom you've lost. You want to face it and experience that sadness, experience that loss. You don't want to force yourself to be happy. You don't want to pretend it did not happen. Something that good intention family members or people close to the person that's mourning try to do is try to force her to be happy faster than is naturally possible. Like, enjoy this, enjoy that, let's go out, let's have some fun. And you have to give the person room to mourn and grieve. Sadness is not something that needs to be avoided. It doesn't have to be treated, it doesn't have to be medicated. Sadness is not depression. You lost something important, you're supposed to feel sad. What we have to make sure, though, is that that sadness, that mourning, doesn't become depression, where the person is, again, feeling guilty, feeling like giving up, not caring for him or herself, not functioning. That's when we have to get worried and actively treat those symptoms. Those are symptoms of complicated mourning, not a healthy mourning process. So, again, a healthy way of dealing with loss is facing that loss, experiencing your sadness, giving yourself time and space to be sad while you're taking care of yourself. You're eating okay, you're sleeping okay, you are taking care of your medical needs. If you have any chronic conditions or you need to take medication, you don't stop taking those. And while you're taking care of yourself, you stay connected with the people that you still have. Say that you lost a close relative. It's very important you stay connected with the people you still have in your life. You shouldn't let the person that you lost, uh, or I should probably say, you shouldn't let the loss of a loved one keep you from enjoying and appreciating the loved ones you still have in your life. So stay connected with the people you still have, and stay connected with the ordinary things that fill your day. Work, hobbies, whatever, religion, church, books, pets, whatever it is that fills your day, that fills your time. Stay connected with those things, because those mundane things that fill your day are what's going to give you a chance to move on. You take care of yourself, you stay connected with the people you have, you stay connected to your everyday routine. Then you give that you give yourself some time doing those things, and that's what's going to move you forward very gradually. So gradually, in fact, that you're not going to notice that's happening. uh, but it's important that the loss is not the only thing in your life. Live your life as your loved one would have wanted you to live. You're not honoring them or the love they had for you by giving up on life. Live the life that they would have wanted you to live. And the last thing you want to do when you're going through mourning is become isolated from the outside world, isolated from other people, isolated from the things that fill your day-to-day life. Because then the only thing you have in your life is loss, and guess what's going to happen? Loss is going to overwhelm you. And all this is what was happening to Isako in this cyberspace 4423, brilliantly also called old space in the anime. So Isako had two choices. She could stay in old space forever, or make her own new space, in actual reality, accept her loss, move on, and grow up into a more complete personality as an adult. So if you do these things, if you give yourself time and you do these things, life itself will move you forward naturally. This is a natural process. This is what's supposed to happen if you don't get in the way of it. If you get in the way of it, if you hold on to that loss and you don't let go, then this natural healthy mourning process is not going to take place, and you're going to get emotionally overwhelmed. And worst case scenario, give up on life and just stop living, basically, literally or figuratively. The main thing is also to keep in mind that moving on with your life is not forgetting the person, and moving on is not stopping. It will not stop you from being sad regarding your loss. Every time that you remember your loss, you're going to feel sad and you're going to miss the person, and that's okay. You don't need to be afraid of the pain, and also you don't need to be afraid about moving on, thinking that moving on will mean that this person, this loved one, is not as important for you anymore. uh, Moving on is a natural part of life. Again, if you don't get in the way, this is what's going to happen. So eventually, with the help of Isako remembers that she was supposed to say goodbye to her brother, to let go, to move on. And she gets out of this cyberspace, moving in the direction of the pain. This quote is so beautiful. This is something that her friend Yasako tells her. The exit is in the direction of the pain. Getting out of this old space and moving forward is facing your pain, not avoiding to feel it. That's all I had for today. I'm planning to do a second video on Yasako's character arc. Until then, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next time. Bye.